Photoshop comes loaded with brushes and traditional artistic commands, and that's what we'll take a look at inside this chapter. I'll also show you how to create your own custom brushes, so I hope you're ready to paint. Alright, so we're ready to start painting here inside Photoshop. Go ahead and open up our next sample file, which is called robot.psd. You'll find him inside your Chapter 6 folder, which is inside your Project Files folder, which you copied onto your computer. Go ahead and open him up. Also, a little bit of setup here. I'm going to increase this guy's canvas size. I want to give ourselves a little bit more room to work inside this document. So I'm going to hit the keyboard shortcut here for canvas size, which is Control-Alt-C on the Windows side or Command-Option-C on the Mac. And I'm going to adjust this guy's width and height so that we have 10 inches wide by 10 inches in height worth of area to work inside here. Go ahead and click on OK. There we are. That's lots and lots of space to work inside there. The other thing I'll do here is I'll hit Shift-Tab to get rid of the clutter on the right-hand side. And I'll also go into full screen mode by hitting the F key on my keyboard. Okay, great. Also, before we really get going, a little bit of setup here inside our layers. I'm going to hit F7 here on my keyboard. That brings up my layers panel. Or, of course, I could go into the window menu and then down to layers. Now, we have a flattened image here. So, go ahead and double click on background. And I'll rename this guy to line art. Great. And I'm going to go and create another layer. So, I'm going to click on the new layer icon down at the bottom of the layers panel. I'll double click on this guy. And I'll call him color. So the idea here is that we want to preserve all of our line art, all the lines inside our drawing here, and we want to color on a completely separate layer. So we want to isolate the lines from the color here. Now I'm going to take my color layer and I'm going to drag them below the line art layer, just like that. Now if I were to leave things the way they are right now, I wouldn't be able to see any color that I put onto the color layer. So check this out. This is a really neat trick. I'll take the line art layer, switch his blending mode to multiply, and then I'll also lock them down so I can't accidentally paint on them. I'll switch to the color layer here, make sure he's the active layer. And now, anything that I paint on the color layer will show through the line art layer, but I'll also preserve my black lines on the line art layer. It's kind of cool. That's what the multiply does, by the way. All right, we're finally ready to start painting here. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit on my artwork here. Bring that in just a little bit. I'll go and grab the paintbrush tool over in the toolbox. Go ahead and grab him. Now, before you start painting inside Photoshop, you may want to take a moment and set them up. So, up on the options bar, I'll click on this first drop down. Here's my brush drop down. I can set the diameter for my brush, the size of my brush. If you're not sure how large your brush will wind up being, just bring them over top of the canvas and you'll see how large your brush size is. Bring them back over and adjust them. So I could crank up this master diameter if I wanted to, or I could drop them way down. I'm going to wind up around 50 pixels. Doesn't have to be too precise. And then the hardness. How soft or how hard is my brush going to be? I'll set mine to about 50% as well. Of course, I could also choose a preset brush inside the brushes panel here as well. Okay, hit enter to lock that in. There's my brush. And we also need a color to paint with. So I'll go up to my window menu here and all the way down to swatches. And I'll choose a gray to work with here for my robot. All right, we are ready to go. So to actually throw down color with the brush tool, all we're going to do is just click and drag here inside our artwork. Notice that I'm painting on the color layer inside the layers panel, and my lines, of course, are being preserved here, and I'm just clicking and dragging to do this. Let me show you the alternative here. I'll take 2 seconds here. I'll come back over to the line art layer, unlock them, and if I switch his blending mode back to normal, and all my color disappears. So again, that's what the multiply blending mode is doing. Okay, switch that back here, lock it back down, make sure my color layer is the active layer. All right, so back to painting here. I'll continue clicking and dragging inside my artwork here. Now, at any time, what I can do is come back to this drop-down menu up on the options bar, adjust my diameter if I want, come back into my artwork, keep on going here. Now let me show you about this hardness setting. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit more on my artwork. Kind of position them up here a little bit. Okay, I'll come up to my brush drop down. I'm going to set a hardness of 100%. Enter to lock that in. Now, if I click and drag inside my artwork, see the edges of my brush? There's no feathering at all. It's a very hard-edged brush, right? So that's the hardness there of 100%. I'll come back to my brush drop-down menu, and I'll set my hardness all the way down to 4%, just 4%. Enter to lock that in, and now when I drag, see the softness of my brush strokes now? So that's what the hardness value is going to do. Now, you can adjust that master diameter and the hardness value either from the brush drop-down up at the top, or you can use keyboard shortcuts if you like. So check this out. On my keyboard, I'm going to hit my open square bracket, and that's going to give me a smaller brush size here to use inside Photoshop. Or if I hit my close square bracket, that's going to give me a larger brush size, just like that. And as far as the hardness value goes, I'm going to hold down Shift and hit my close square bracket. And that's going to give me a very hard-edged brush here, as you can see. Or if I hit Shift and open square bracket, that's going to give me a very soft-edged brush. So there you go. There's some keyboard shortcuts to help you adjust your brush sizes. And that makes working inside Photoshop go a heck of a lot faster. So I want to finish painting off this guy's shoulders. So I'm going to hold down Shift and hit the close square bracket key on my keyboard a few times to give me a very hard edge brush. I'll also just hit the open square bracket on its own there to give me a smaller brush size. Tap that a few more times to get a smaller sized brush there. And I'll start to finish off this area here. If you goof up a little bit, no worries. I'll show you the eraser tool in a little bit. Okay, so something like this. I'll give myself a smaller brush to get in between these two objects here, these two buttons, around the outside. Good stuff. So yes, using those keyboard shortcuts definitely speeds things up here inside Photoshop. Okay, so our robot shoulders are done here. There's a quick run through of setting up your brush tool and also setting up your file for painting inside Photoshop.